Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I've been on a little bit of a rampage the last, month or so about just men leading their households and getting healthy. It's funny because when COVID hit, I guess it's been over 2 years ago now, I was training for a Spartan race here in Montana, and I think I got sick, but I'm not really sure because I was healthy. I was out running every day. Nutrition was spot on. I felt strong, and both my wife had a little glitch in our workouts. And I thought, well, maybe we got a little COVID, but it didn't even hit our radar, and that was it. Since then, we've been great. So I think being healthy is so important. If you've listened to my show for a while, I had Doug Smith on a couple years ago. He's the owner of True Nutrition with Dante Trudell. Great group of guys over there, great products. I also had Ryan Fisher on. He's an Olympic athlete, CrossFit champion. But today, I've got Kris Gethin on the line. Hey, man. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on, brother.
I feel like I know you and your wife already because I worked out this morning, I had my little 2-hour workout, and listened to a whole bunch of your shows and your podcasts, and she interviewed in the coffee shop. And I just thought that was such a wonderful message. So, A, keep doing what you're doing, and B, love the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, as probably you do the same. You're not doing it for any financial remuneration. You're out there to try to send a message, give ourselves purpose and accountability at the end of the day, and put out something that we wish we had when we were growing up.
Yeah, I think podcast really is a great tool for us, not only to learn, but to just kind of expand our thinking a little bit. And a lot of your stuff is about health and fitness and working out, but this particular show was about business and kind of pushing through and keeping up with the demands of not only running a business and the days that you don't want to push, you want to give up, but you have an obligation there. So I love that message of the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important to practice some form of discipline outside of your business or entrepreneurship life. So it does have that transcendence effect of the doing things when you don't want to do it, especially on the days that you don't want to do them, then you just do them because it's a little bit more robotic or habitual as opposed to instinctive with an emotion attached to it. Because when emotions are attached to it, you sometimes you're emotionally lethargic. You've had a lot of energy exchange with other people. Maybe you're just not feeling like it, but you just do it anyway because there isn't any emotion attached when you practice discipline.
Yeah. Kris, if you don't mind, I'd love to get some backstory on you for my listeners. They don't have the luxury of going through your bio and doing the deep dive, but could you give us some backstory, where things started for you and then how you got into fitness and became the athlete that you are?
Sure. So I'm from Wales originally, grew up on a farm in Wales, left the late 90s. I'm 48 years old now. And how I got into the fitness arena was through motocross. I raced motocross for about 11 years, and I just had a lot of injuries. I just came from the motocross this weekend, not racing myself. But because of that, I spiraled into depression, turned to alcohol, turned to a lot of drugs, because my high identity had become attached to adrenaline. So when I didn't have that, and obviously the pain that I was dealing with, I just, tried to seek comfort elsewhere. And it wasn't until I started doing physiotherapy through resistance training that I was alleviated the pain in my back. And I started to feel better about myself because now I'm feeding myself with better fuel, better food. I'm a little bit more conscious of the choices that I'm making. And that's when I decided, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to study this. And when I went to college and started studying for it, I thought, hey, I really enjoy weight training. Maybe I'll do a bodybuilding show. And that's where I found I attached my new identity to that. And I was able to get a bit of an adrenaline rush from working out at an extreme pace, basically. So that's how I got into the fitness industry. And, luckily, the qualifications that I got were internationally recognized. That took me on cruise liners, took me to Australia, and brought me to the US, where I eventually came to the US as a writer and photographer for various magazines within the fitness industry. And then that got me a job opportunity with bodybuild.com as the editor-in-chief back in 2007, which brought me to Boise, Idaho, where I am now. And, even though I no longer work with bodybuild.com, I am a vendor with them through my supplement company.
You talked about the adrenaline rush, being a motorcycle cross racer. I came from the off-road world, raced trophy truck for 13 years. And it's interesting, that is an adrenaline rush. It is a lifestyle. It's something that you crave, when you're not in the vehicle or on the dirt bike. We've got a lot of listeners that are pro athletes in that kind of extreme sport world that are transitioning out now. Can you talk a little bit about how that transition? Because look, we all fell victim to the alcohol and the drugs and, the destruction of our lives to one point. And then it's like, I got to get my act together. What was that transition like for you? And how did you identify that working out was going to replace that adrenaline? I think you said you worked out harder.
Yeah, for sure. I do work out, even today, I work out pretty extreme. I push myself to the limits, not just with weight, but a lot with intensity. Sometimes I'm doing 5 exercises back to back for 20 repetitions each. Sometimes I'm doing leg extensions, 100 rep drop sets as a beginning set, But the transition was a tough transition because I didn't know, I didn't have anybody to lean upon to ask. There was no internet back then. There was certainly nothing in the magazines. And it was just an abyss where I felt that I had no purpose and I didn't know what was ahead of me because motocross was that purpose. And I did have a bit of a transitional period where I raced downhill mountain biking for a while. So that kind of softened the blow a little bit. But you'll see a lot of, for instance, you'll see a lot of motocross riders like Ricky Johnson, Ricky Carmichael, a lot of those guys, Jeremy McGrath, go into truck racing because they feel that they need something after they've given up motocross. They just need something. Like I know Jeff Ward now, Jeff has got to be about 58 years old and he's mountain biking every single day. That's his identity now. That's his adrenaline rush. So I think that as long as you do find some sort of physicality that is going to make you feel good, maybe mountain biking is going to be a little bit slower paced than say, truck racing or motocross, but it's something. And it's something that you can do in your latter years. And, I started transitioning after I gave up bodybuilding. Even though I still weight train, I do consider myself still bodybuilding, but just not on a competitive stand front. I started doing Ironman triathlon. I started doing ultra marathon, but still having my pivotal foot in the gym. So I'm still getting it. And I think to myself, well, I could cycle, I could swim into my much, much later years. So those are sort of things that I can enjoy. Do I still get injured? Yeah, I get injured a lot. I got injured last year snowboarding. I'll always continue to do something, but just not to the extreme that I once did. And I think it's very important that people just don't go cold turkey. If you're an active person, you always have been, and you've identified yourself to some sort of extreme sport, then you continue to do so, but you scale down a little.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. For lack of a better way to put it, us athletes that are extreme sport athletes, we got a little bit of a screw loose. And I think that as we transition out of one thing, we really are craving that the next item. For me, I picked up competitive Spartan racing, and I'm actually training for an ultra in September for the World Finals. I don't know why, I just here I am, and I think a good point that you make is that you transition to what your body and what you can handle next, but you need that, you crave that. And it's a good way or a good alternative to the drugs, alcohol, and the downward spiral so many people go into.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You need to have something there. And, it just makes us feel good because I noticed that a lot of people that are into extreme sports, we have very low adrenaline levels by normal standards. So, for instance, you could be in a car with somebody and your wife is screaming because they think that you're going fast and your heart rate hasn't changed. You're like, what are you talking about? So we need to push our limits sometimes just to feel normal.
That's funny. I think my wife yells at me every time we drive down our neighborhood street. She's like, "You're driving too fast." I'm like, "No, we're good."
Yeah, like I bought a Jeep for that purpose because I didn't know. I don't know that I speed half the time. So I was getting speeding tickets here, there, everywhere. So I thought, man, I'm going to lose my license. So I bought a Jeep and I've been good since.
Yeah. What's that say about the Jeep?
Yeah.
Kris, talk to me a little bit about health and fitness. And this was really kind of my drive to find you. I interviewed Jack Donovan a couple times now on my show. He's all about masculinity and being a man and what that means. But I think a big part of that is just being healthy and having the strength to do the things that we're called on, regardless of our age. Can you talk about the importance of being healthy and having some type of workout program?
Yeah, well, it's an investment for our future. If you're investing in the bank, then you hope in the future, maybe at past retirement age, you'll be able to withdraw on that or your retirement fund. It's the same thing. I'm making investments every single day for the now, obviously, because I'm going to feel good. I'm going to feel stronger. I'm going to have more confidence. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to have clearer cognitive function by feeding my brain, feeding my body for the right now. However, in the future, maybe I want to withdraw some of that in the future, because when I'm in my 80s and I still want to have adventure and I will want to go hiking and camping, then I can withdraw the importance of the application that I've provided now. I think a lot of people are students of learning. They know what to do, but they're not students of application, and they don't do what they should do. And there's a huge disconnect there, because sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's hard, but I think people become overwhelmed by the idea instead of taking baby steps and just scaling into it. If sugar is your culprit, then cut down your sugar, and then maybe next week or the week after you can start getting a form of bacteria, and then maybe you could start getting rid of the sodas, or the diet sodas, and start drinking a little bit more water, and just a little bit by bit, because I've had clients that have made their transformations over a 3-year period. However, if I'd told them to do it over a 12-week period, they'd still be in a bad way right now. So something is always better than nothing, and I think people get overwhelmed by the everything.
Yeah, I love that point about something. We talk in business about, how to eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. The same thing goes for fitness. You mentioned you're in your later 40s. I'm 54. I've been into fitness my whole life, so I've never had that, huge mountain to climb to get healthy again. What do you say to a man in his mid 40s, early 50s that hasn't done anything? How does he start those little baby steps?
I always get them to start sleeping first, because the majority of the people that I work with just stay up way too late. They're exposing themselves to artificial light. They're watching, screens, TV, on the computer. They take their phone to bed, and then they're too tired in the morning to get any sort of activity done or prepare their food or make healthy choices. Usually when we're tired, we're emotionally charged, we're emotionally lethargic, and we make bad choices. So that's usually the first thing that I apply to people. Then I look at people's fluid consumption. The majority of the time, my clients' performance is usually down from a cognitive standpoint or physical standpoint because they're dehydrated. With a body and brain made up of 65% minimum of water, then of course you need a lot of it. So I've always got like my meathead gallon jug here. Make sure I'm not drinking out of, yeah, there you go. So I'll drink out of that and make sure, I don't, people look at bodybuilders with these jugs and think, oh, that's a meathead. No, we walk around with it because once we know that that is empty, that we've done our duty from a fluid standpoint.
Yeah.
By the end of the day. So I always tell people, walk around with fluid all the time. Don't go, because it's very easy for you to go thirsty and go, you know what, I'm just thirsty, I'll wait another 2 hours. Well, thirst is maybe an indication that you're going through dehydration. So you want to make sure that you're hydrated all the time. And if you're bored with water, put some natural flavoring in there, put some electrolytes in there. So it encourages you to drink because it tastes good. And then further from that, then I start looking at the food. The food is, obviously you are what you eat, but, what can we do to replace the foods that you're currently eating to create some more convenience with those foods? Because let's face it, eating, 3 to 6 meals a day can be inconvenient for some people. So what can we do? Can we replace some of those with shakes if you can't get solid meals in? And just kind of scale it from there. And then we look at activity probably as the last part. Even though activity is extremely important, not just for fat loss or muscle building, but of course our heart health. But usually that's the easiest part to get in, because what's it require? Hour, maybe 2 hours a day. You can do that. You can fit that in. Preparing your meals, get into bed early, doing certain little biohacks, make sure you go out and get some sun, maybe earth yourself. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for some people. People don't like free stuff. If I tell them to go and buy a sauna or get infrared light panel, they'll buy it straight away. I tell them to meditate or tell them to earth themselves, get out and get some sun. They don't take it seriously.
It's amazing how that I'm so glad you said that, because the first 3 points you made don't cost a thing, but they will make a significant change in their lives. And like you said, most people, just like in coaching, if I give my coaching away, they don't make it on time for the phone calls, they don't follow through. If I charge them a couple grand, they're there on time and they do all the work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when I've done seminars. When I've done seminars, because I like to do my seminars for free a lot of the time. I'm doing one in 2 weeks' time in Texas, and not many people will show up to those in comparison to the ones that I charge for, which is insane. So I'm like, okay, you asked for it, then I'll charge for it.
Okay, so again, back to this human that's in their 40s to 50s. They're getting their sleep now. They're getting some water. They're getting a little bit of basic nutrition and maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes of working out. What does that look like in terms of a period of time until they can start escalating that a little bit, really making some body changes?
Yeah, everybody's different. Everyone's different. Some people I can throw into the deep end immediately. They're dedicated. They're not going to cheat. They're not going to waver. They're not going to have a late night on a Saturday or Sunday. Fine. But then there's other people that can really take their time. So it's a very, case by case basis. Some people will use having 3 kids and 2 jobs as an excuse. Yet I have those people that have 3 jobs and, kids, and they're single parents, and they don't use that as an excuse. Mm-hmm. So again, it is all a case by case basis. I usually ask people, what can they do? What can they manage in the beginning? What can we swap? What can we change? What's holding them back? What are the pros and cons? And then we take it from there.
Yeah, deep dive on their personal. There's always time. It's about the desire and making the time for what's important.
Oh, 100%. Like the amount of people that keep telling me, I can't get to bed before midnight, and I know that what their working hours are. They're just telling me that their health is not important to them, and that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, could you just reaffirm? You get that good night's sleep, you get your workout in, all of a sudden your day is way more productive. You've got way more time than you thought. I know when I don't work out and I miss the alarm at 5 a.m. and I miss that workout, I know I'm terrible all day because of it. Can you just reaffirm how important it is to get it in, and it's going to set your day off in the right direction?
Yeah, well, if you think back to our ancestors, I always try to combine today's technology and biohacking and quantification with our ancestors' wisdom, and our ancestors would go to bed after sunset. Sunset has happened. They go to sleep. Maybe they're up for a little bit by the campfire later in years, candlelight, but that was it. Now we're exposed to a lot of this artificial blue light that penetrates our skin through photobiomodulation, penetrates our retina as well to tell us it's daylight. So cortisol levels are higher. Melatonin doesn't get released. We don't go to sleep. And then we wake up tired and we come up with all the justifications and the excuses of why we shouldn't attack our goals, why we shouldn't do our activity in the morning, why we shouldn't get ahead. And people don't understand that not only do they feel physically drained but mentally drained as well. They don't have the cognitive function that they should do. So, and quantifying that sleep, I feel, is quite important. You don't have to do it year round, but maybe in the beginning to see how much deep sleep that you get in, how much REM sleep that you get in, to ensure that the sleep that you're getting is quality as well. And that dictates our performance. Our recovery dictates our performance. In this day and age, we look at social media, we're like, we want that physique now. We want to hit that 500-pound deadlift last week because other people are doing it that are younger than me. And not really looking at the fact that, for instance, if we prioritized our health, prioritized our sleep, prioritized our recovery, that would then dictate our performance, because people are looking for the next pre-workout, the next hard rock tune to listen to on the way to the gym, and just thinking go, 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 with no priority to recovery. So, sleep is that pivotal role, and that's what it's there for, not only from a physical standpoint, but it helps our brain detox as well. I spent about 6 weeks in Dr. Sponag's clinic in Florida, and he treats a lot of people with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, Lyme's disease, mold toxicity. And he said that the amount of people that he diagnoses now for various mental disturbances in their 40s is crazy, where when he started practicing, he was only diagnosing people in their late 70s, 80s. So our environment hasn't changed, our DNA hasn't changed, but our habits definitely have. So if we're not detoxing, of course, there's a lot of other things that we're exposed to now, phthalates, pollutants, heavy metals. But of course, sleep is going to help us detox and collate a lot of these issues.
It's interesting you say that. I got a text message. My coach is virtual. He's in California. And the only thing he said is, Jim, make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. It's critical go time. We got 45 days before race time. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, hey, before we got on the line today, I was talking a little bit about masculinity in the country, really in the world. And I'm wondering if you can just give a perspective on what you're seeing on an international or national level, because what I'm seeing is men are less concerned about being healthy, being strong, and kind of being that person that can get the job done. Now, I'm not saying that ladies can't do that either, but I've really seen a diminishing of masculinity, and it concerns me because I think our health and strength is important to leading our house and our jobs and the country.
Yeah, I think societies have made us very soft, and we're losing our masculinity because of it. No longer, we're people wake up wanting to be offended. People wake up facing fear, wanting to shy away from fear, and they want to seek comfort as opposed to getting comfortable with discomfort. I encourage every single person that I train, whether that be from an entrepreneurship standpoint or just physical performance standpoint, to do things uncomfortable every day. You used to getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, guess what? You're getting up at 5 now. I don't give a shit if you went to bed at 2, 3 o'clock. I know sleep is important to you, but you have to start creating discipline within you. And you have to do an ice bath or a cold shower every single day, especially on the days that you want to have a warm shower because it's cold outside. If it's pissing down with the rain, lace up. That's where you're going to do your cardio today. It's not going to be in the security of the gym or in your home. And that obviously has a transcendence effect as well. But making sure that your diet is on point, because the thing is, we have so many estrogens in our food now, it's unbelievable. And we're eating food that is filled with antibiotics. The meat that we eat has more antibiotics than what is being prescribed in the US at the moment. So we're consuming all those antibiotics. We're eating and drinking out of plastics constantly. We're microwaving plastics. So we're having all these phthalates, and dependent on the water supply that we're drinking from, or where we're getting the fish, there's a lot of microplastics in that fluid or food as well. Again, more phthalates. A lot of the creams, the hair products that people are using today, again, a lot of estrogen. So there's a great book out there called Estrogeneration by a gentleman called Dr. Anthony J. And he talks about this, how there's just so many estrogens within our society that's obviously contributing to the massive decline that we have in testosterone today. But of course, you want to optimize testosterone, you sleep. A lot of people are wanting that test booster. They want to, the next thing that's going to help boost their test levels. Well, start with sleep. Start with getting the hormone that is essential to us today, which is vitamin D. Get out there, get sun. If you can't, I'm not saying in the middle of the day, but maybe get those restorative red frequencies that we get at sunrise and at sunset. That vitamin D isn't just a vitamin, it is a hormone that will help regulate your testosterone levels, And unfortunately, as I said, we become comfortable. We take the escalators instead of the stairs. We park as close as we possibly can to the supermarket door, which is understandable if it was just after leg day. And when weight training, every single person, not just guys, every person, young, old, male, female, should be doing some sort of resistance training, because that's going to help with your bone density. It's going to help with your natural growth hormone production and your testosterone production. Like if you look at, so the blue zones, are you aware of the blue zones?
No, I'm not.
So the blue zones, okay, so that is where they've studied, there's a disproportionate amount of people that live past 100 years old. They're centenarians. And if they've studied these people, and they're always active, in some of these cultures, there is no word for retirement. They don't know what retirement means. And if you go to a place like Okinawa, a lot of these elderly people don't have seats. They sit on the floor. And on average, they're standing up and sitting down about 50 or 60 times a day. That is a form of resistance training. So if your testosterone levels lower, okay, the universe will look at you and basically, this is one of the contributing factors, not be all and end all, and go, okay, well, this male is not reproducing anymore and his testosterone levels are really, really low. We don't have any use for this human anymore. Let's just get rid of him. And you just wither away and die. So I think it's very important. That's why, HRT is, or, TRT is subscribed to a lot of people today, which is great. But what can we do to prevent that and free our own natural testosterone levels? Compound movements, weight training, getting your sunlight, sleeping, trying to stay away from a lot of these artificial plastics and creams and phthalates and stuff like that will be a surefire way, a good place to start. And, getting, some red meat, some good protein sources and some good fats, some good healthy fats in your diet, whether that be coming from olive oil, egg yolks, nuts, seeds, et cetera, et cetera.
You're making me very grateful to live in Montana right now. we raise our own beef. We've got our own water well, and there's plenty of sunshine here to get that vitamin D.
Yeah, that's great because you want to try to stay away from pro-inflammatory foods, and a lot of the factory farmed chickens or beef are just pro-inflammatory. They have more omega-6 than they do omega-3. So like if you look at, for instance, salmon has got that nice pinkish color to it, and it's a lot of omega-3s. But if you get the farmed salmon, that has been dyed pink. It's not its natural color. It's white. It doesn't have any astaxanthin in it, and it has a much higher ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. So you're in a lucky spot. But if you're not in Montana, try to go humane raised, grass-fed, wild-caught, organic whenever possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, you've covered a lot of things, and what I really appreciate is, I don't want to say the free side of it, but there's so many things that we can do that don't cost us anything, but our time and attention and our awareness, which you're giving us. But you also, you represent or you discuss some supplements that I've seen in your pages here. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know we can't always get everything we need, at the grocery store or, in the farm, but what are some of the additives that they might want to consider for a healthier life?
Yeah, for sure. Well, unfortunately, the soil is way over harvested compared to what it was like 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we don't have the minerals within it. And obviously, if there's no minerals in it and the animals are feeding from that soil as well, then they're not going to have the adequate amount of nutrients in them either. So I'd say multivitamin is going to be your first best bet as an insurance. Now, dependent on how active you are, if you're an active individual and you're utilizing a lot of protein and eating 6 solid meals a day is going to be inconvenient, then maybe a protein powder, whey protein isolate, or meal replacement. Again, we're talking about kind of the health industry here. So you want to make sure that that supplement that you are supplementing with is healthy. So you're having an organic multivitamin. It isn't synthetic that is created in a lab. So I like to say the farm to table, not pharmacy to table, making sure that those protein powders are naturally flavored. They're naturally colored. They adhere to the Prop 65 Act of heavy metal contaminants. And then, if you are, again, an active individual, you may want to look at supplementing with some more essential amino acids, particularly around your workout time. So, I'd say that, we could definitely go down a rabbit hole. You could take every supplement on the shelf, but that's not going to be good for you. But it definitely has to be relevant for you. But I usually say protein powder, multivitamin, and some essential amino acids is where you'd want to start. And then you could go further, like a probiotic, dependent on your gut health, because your gut health is like your second brain. It's where you hold your immunity. That's where you produce a lot of your hormones. So you want to make sure that you get a good probiotic, but you want to make sure that you're eating good food at the same time, and maybe having some fermented food. So it could be kimchi, sauerkraut, and kefir to ensure that that probiotic is doing its job. And one more thing, actually, one more thing is electrolytes. Electrolytes. So obviously, like, you know, we're drinking our gallon of water a day. I've got my electrolytes in here. It's naturally flavored, it's naturally colored, and in that electrolyte powder that I've got in here, it also has antioxidants to help me beat off a lot of the free radical damage that I could get from air conditioning, from pollutants, from the city, or whatever. And if it tastes good, I'm going to drink more of it.
Yeah. What a wealth of information you are today. And, you know, it's just interesting on a quick glance. Somebody might look at your page and say, oh, here's another bodybuilder and he's helping some people transform. But the reality and the depth of what you do and how you do it and your easy explanation today on how to be a healthier self, I really appreciate your position and where you're at. Thank you for that.
No, thank you. I'm not qualified to do anything else, so it's quite easy.
Well, look, if somebody wants to follow or get more information from you, or if I don't know if you do one-on-one coaching for people in other areas, but how do they find out more?
Yeah, sure. I do one-on-one coaching just online, and obviously that's international, so they can find me. Probably best to go to my Instagram page, Kris, Kris Gethin, Gethin. And if they're interested in looking at the subs that I provide or suggest here today, then go to www.kaged.com.
Kris, I appreciate that. I'll put that in the show notes so people know how to get a hold of you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and keep up the good work, man. I love when people throw so many great nuggets that they don't cost anything, right? It's the right way to be.
Yeah, it's just investing in yourself. That's the cost.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Just real quick. Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.